the Women Making Moves, where we celebrate the moves that women are making. My name is Amy Pons, founder of Unlock the Magic, coaching, healing, and marketing. I'm joined today with Sunshine Chabot. Sunshine is a First Nation woman from Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation. She is a warrior woman that is passionate about sharing Cree cultural teachings. She is a 60s scoop survivor and thriver. She has 14 years of work experience in the social services sector and is in her first year in the education system teaching cultural wisdom and knowledge. Her greatest mission is to inspire the next generation of youth with a special focus on Indigenous youth and being proud of their identities and sharing their unique gifts with the world. Sunshine, welcome.
Thank you for having me, with this being my first podcast.
Oh, that's special. On Tutu.
I love it.
What does Tutu Portal mean for you?
Tutu Portal means to me to believe in all of the infinite possibilities that humanity can have for the good. And so today is an example for me being on this podcast and sharing whatever the collective needs to hear. I am opening myself up as a channel to share the good for humanity.
What's interesting about we as humans, and you and I have both done it in the past few minutes, we assign good and bad and right and wrong. And our
Yeah.
spiritual selves are like, what are you talking about? There's no good or bad, right or wrong. And we're like, yes, fair. And we're living a human experience where things are deemed good and bad. And so, of course, that's typically tied with how humans are impacted. So it gets to be all and both. I think the hardest work, for me at least, is remembering I'm a divine being, but also feeling the day-to-day pinch of a human. And it's like, all right, how do we get all on the same page here? What does that look like?
Yes, yes. Everything light and dark. As humans, we get to experience the duality. I know in the higher realms, they don't experience that. So it is a gift to be here in the 3D, and we are ascending to the 5D.
And I find a lot of times, I even played with something in LinkedIn with my different titles on LinkedIn. It's like 3D, certified life coach, 4D, divine feminine catalyst, 5D, quantum energy healer. Like I put all three. And depending on anyone's like, why do you have three? Well, you're going to identify with one of them, right? That's what it is. Like whatever your consciousness is able to absorb.
I like the quantum healing. I identify with the quantum.
Yeah, I do too. That's the way that I guide healing. We get into a place where we identify different versions or realities of ourselves, and we go to or reach for or pull from the versions that are our favorite, the ones that have achieved not just the things, but the feelings and the enlightenment and all of that. Everyone's like, what does that mean? I'm like, we borrow from other realities.
And dimensions.
Yeah, because we get to realize there's more than just this version and moment of ourselves. And when you can do that, so it typically looks like, tell me about how you want to feel when you've done all the things. Like that's the question. And then we literally go find that version of yourself and go get them.
I love it. And I'm living my dream today by being here with all of you. That's my, I think, highest frequency.
Cool. And then here we are. So what is the
60s scoop?
What is the 60s scoop, Sunshine?
I'm glad you asked, because many, many people ask me that question. And the 60s scoop is when the government mandated and legislated the removal of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit children to be removed from the care of their communities and their families of origin. And they were to be placed with primarily European families. And the idea was that the Indigenous culture way of raising children was not favorable or seen as something that should be happening. And there was the ending of the residential schools, which that's another thing too that I can explain. But essentially, it was just the removal of children from culture and families and a massive displacement across Canada and the US. But I will speak about Canada since that's where I'm from. And so the government kind of gave a timeline of when that started and ended. And according to the government, that 60 scoop practice ended in 1990, and I was born in 1989. And I was removed from my biological family. My biological mom was raised in foster care, and she had me when she was 14 years old. And the social workers essentially pressured her to give me a good life with a European middle class home. And so that's what happened. And so essentially, I was scooped from my family and community and roots into a European home, and thousands upon thousands of Indigenous children in Canada were removed forcefully and pressured and legislated and mandated
Why?
to destroy the culture, is what I've discovered, because as I've gone through my journey of rediscovering my identity and owning it very strongly, the way the government would have preferred is that I would have just became assimilated into my family and forgotten who I was. That's kind of the agenda. And my mission and vision is to help all of the lost people out there searching for who they are, because we'll tend to look for it in different things like addictions or, unhealthy things. But when you find your culture and your identity, it's going to light you up from the inside out, and it's going to give you what you've been searching for, which is what happened to me.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry that happened to you and your family, your mom. So in the 60s, this started to happen. And
Yeah.
what happened to the adults and what happened to the land when the children were scooped?
See, that's a good question. So that's kind of what the agenda has been and also continues to this day. But that's what happened is when there was just this mass removal of children, it created a lot of poverty and addictions in the reserves and wherever wherever the people were living, whether they're urban, wherever they were, wherever their children are being apprehended, it created a lot of grief. And not only that, there's a lot of unresolved grief from residential schools. So that's like a big piece to all of this too. What I want to say is the residential school system directly led to the 60 scoop. So it was kind of like a byproduct of the trauma of the residential school system, which again was legislated and mandated. And the words, if you go and look at the words of what the intent was from the person who created it, it's to remove the Indian out of the Indian. And those were the direct words. So all along, that has been the intent. And so when you remove children from their mothers, the fathers, the grandmothers, the family unit, it just compounds the grief that's already been going on for generations. And so it's just created a lot of destruction and chaos. And I did work in child welfare as a cultural worker to try and be a part of the solution. And in that system, I had realized that there was no way that I was going to be able to achieve what I want to achieve. Because what has to happen is the total opposite of that intent. That intent is still rippling through government. And when the government takes on a whole different lens and is like, we need to put the Indian child back into the Indian families, when that becomes their core belief and what they want to do, that's going to change the whole system. And until that happens, we're continuing this belief that there's superior ways of raising your children and that people with addictions shouldn't be raising their kids. And this kind of like racism, underlying racism about parenting for my community. And that's just like, we need to have a whole overhaul of the child welfare system.
Being in the US, there's a lot happening right now within the government. And it feels like everything's coming to a head where from 100 years ago, even further back, there was one intention. The systems that were created from many 100 years ago, any programs or any desires or any initiatives started after any of those systems took a foothold, they're also playing within the systems, the same systems. And those new well-intentioned somethings are still forced to being operated within the systems that were meant to tear them down. So it's like, ugh, it's almost like just everything needs to be leveled at some point, which may be happening one way or another. So thanks for trying. I mean, you still are, right?
Yeah,
Your
I
work.
still I still am. I'm never gonna stop doing this work and the culture work, no matter what. I decided to switch gears and go into education, not realizing that education is an even more corrupt system than the social work.
Oh gosh.
I had no idea until I got there.
So if scooping stopped in 90s, what do these families look like today?
So here's the interesting thing that I am here to speak on and educate also is that the stopping of the scooping never stops.
Okay.
But it's been called a new name and they're calling it the Millennium Scoop. So they're just kind of categorizing the scoops, if you will. And so what is happening with that is there are statistics out there. Cindy Blackstock is one of my, like, I look up to her so much because she's really in the trenches doing this work for Indigenous children in Canada. And she is doing the research and everything and has found statistically that there are more children that are being removed through the children's welfare system than at the height of residential school. So there's more children being taken from families now than in the past. And I saw that directly in the work that I was doing. There's like a 90% average of Indigenous children in the system compared to any other background of a human being in the system. And I did observe that with my own eyes and was really just like, this is a human rights violation and this cannot continue. Those were my feelings working in the system. And that's why I was like, I have to get out of here for my mental health, but I'm not done. I'm not done with this work. I'm taking a pause. I'm reassessing my game plan. But let me tell you, I'm coming back for you so that you stop taking our kids.
Because it's still happening.
Yes.
Good for you. Here's the thing about the sunshine is that for us people, humans out here that are warriors, that looks different every day, if I may.
Yeah.
Every day I don't feel like fighting, confronting, pushing, advocate. Some days I'm just tired and I just need to take a minute and trust that everyone else that is also fighting for change, that we all have each other's backs, I would like to believe. So I love that
Yeah.
you're intentionally taking a pause and saying like, oh, I'm coming, absolutely, because that's just as important. It's like the oxygen mask. Like, give yourself first. Thank you for sharing about scooping. And indeed did not stop, still happening. And the intent, if I may mirror back to you, is to remove Indigenous children, First Nation children, to
Westernize.
thank you, take them and westernize them.
Yeah.
So, what does your relationship look like today with Sturgeon Lake Cree? And can you tell us a little bit about the values and foundation?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. So there's a whole story that I'm gonna write a book about how I reconnected with my bio mom. So I'll keep that one for the book, but I will let you know that I did reconnect with her through a very magical way. And it was just one of the most healing points in my life was being able to hug my biological mom. And it happened very naturally, like out in the wild, in a shopping mall.
Oh,
Yeah, so like it was really cool. And what I like to tell people, when I was working with the youth who, didn't know where they came from and all those things that I had experienced, I would just tell them that, like, if you believe in a higher power and if you believe with your whole heart and you pray so hard to get those answers, I believe that it will happen for you in the right time because it happened for me. And, I didn't need the system to reunite us. It happened. And so, I always give that hope and spark that hope in the youth that have those identity issues and don't know where they're from, in the system. Just like keep believing with your whole heart. And I mean, I would be crying and looking out the window as a child, and I'd just be like, who are my parents? Who's my mom? Like, am I ever going to know where I come from? And it can really weigh on you as a child and throughout your whole life. So I really wanted those answers, and I just believed in my entire soul that I was going to find out, and it happened. And right now, with Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation, I am connected to them. I talked to my cousin, who's the chief. We message each other on LinkedIn, of all places. And so I stay in touch with him. I ask him, what's going on in the nation. They just recently had like an ice fishing thing for the community, and I'm always welcome to go back. It's just working a full-time job. I can't always make it to like the weekly things. But if there's things going on in the weekend, like I definitely want to go back. Most of the reserve is my family because I'm related to the Sunshines and the Gladju's, and it's a lot of my reserve.
that's
So
beautiful.
yes, and I know where I come from, and there's such a power in that, and like those roots really matter. Like I needed to know who I was and where I came from to become the strong person that I am now. Without that foundation, it could be really challenging.
Thank you for sharing that. And that it's really cool that you're at this point thinking back of when you were staring out the window, who am I? And feeling so lost. And now, current day, Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation, most of it is your family.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I'm
It
really,
is. And tying it to what I was saying about the agenda, if I don't have pride in who I am or know where I come from, that's the colonial agenda, essentially erasing. And I'm just here to tell you that you didn't win. I'm winning. And the light always wins, just to let you know.
thank you for that reminder. I personally feel that as an energy coach and healer, it's always turning back inward. What do you genuinely feel? Like, what does your body know and feel? And to your point about tapping into higher power, our spiritual beings, our divine beings, the soul inside of us. We're not just human. Again, that's my philosophy and many of ours, but I find that people that are only in the human part of it really don't have that element of realizing there's something so much bigger through spiritual community, God, source, creator, universe. And I saw this, not to make light of what we're talking about, but I saw this, I keep seeing this meme that is, y'all don't believe in magic, but we're on a spinning ball hurtling through a galaxy. And that's not magical. And there's not energy beyond us as humans, So that guidance for me, at least, is that beacon. When things are going haywire in the human, I tap into literally the cosmos and I check out what's happening out there.
I love that. And, I believe the thing that keeps me going is making things lighter about this topic because it is a really heavy one and I'm so connected to it in every way. But it really is the hope and the cosmos and everything. All of the lightness really keeps me personally going. And I know my leader, Cindy Blackstock, that's how we can continue doing this work. Because if we really stayed stuck in like what is and all of that, you can't really move forward. But when you have hope, you can move forward every day.
Right. I'm feeling that strongly right now in my 3D self and in the US. And I'm finding like a call to go back to my indigenous roots, which are primarily Mid-Eastern European. It's like maybe I should go explore for a little while, and see what's what.
And be on the land and
Yeah.
in nature because I was literally explaining that I get asked to do land acknowledgements all the time. I don't know if you guys do that in the US, but in Canada, land acknowledgements are always a thing before we get started. And I've been doing land acknowledgements uniquely instead of the standard scripted. I'm like, no, I don't do scripted. Like I do from the heart. So I went into a whole story recently, like last week, with my land acknowledgement saying I'm from Treaty 8 territory, which is where Sturgeon Lake is located. And I was given a teaching by someone from Sturgeon Lake because our ancestors were primarily in that area. So when we actually physically go back to that part of the land in northern Alberta, there's like a blood memory that like gets activated. And it's really true. Like my skin changes. There's just this feeling that like happens to me once I get in northern Alberta. And it's a feeling of home I've never been able to have here in Treaty 6 territory where I'm currently living.
I resonate with that. There's a part of me that hasn't necessarily felt, especially during my spiritual awakening, there's nothing necessarily physically that I feel connected to. Although I love nature, so I'm always going to love nature, but also to your point, like the heartbeat of the land, I don't necessarily feel that here. You bring up land, and I wanted to ask you if this is appropriate. One of the things that I invite all people to do always is look up whose land you live on.
That's
Is
part of the land acknowledgement.
is there something every spring I build a garden? I talk to Gaia. I share with the soil, the land. I give thanks. I give offerings. And that's really important to me. That feels really, really special, that moment. And everyone's always asking me, like, how do you have these bumper crops? These 1 year there was like 70 pumpkins. I'm like, well, because it's an energetic spiritual experience. It's not simply to get something from Mother Earth and from the land. And every
Yes.
time I harvest, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I talk to the land.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that so much. And that's what we need more of. Like what you're doing. We need more people to come back to that because that's what's going to cultivate that relationship with everything else also, because that translates into how you approach people. So I believe that's why, my people were very much like that, like living like that, because when all you have is the land,
Mm.
you appreciate it and you show that gratitude. And how could you not do that to everything else around you? The animals, your
Mhm.
community, that's where it starts.
Yeah. Because Sunshine, I will tell you that it ebbs and flows with me around do I have a right to be here? Do I have a right to be on this land? And I go back to the soul plane. There's one truth, which is I exist. And because the truth is that I exist, I have a right to be here. And I get to honor the land of which I do exist upon and honor and recognize that it was taken and giving thanks to the people that were here first and throughout, thanking them for allowing me to exist and have the right to be here.
I love that. And if people could do land acknowledgements just like how you just said that, that would be correct and proper and reconciliation right there.
So thank you for validating that.
The frequency and the energy of that feels like so much respect. And you really can't go wrong when your intent is gratitude and respect. It's such a beautiful it's such a beautiful energy, really. Like I'm feeling it right now, and like thank you for sharing that with everyone.
Sunshine. May I share a small story? We had trees in our front yard that were about to come down on the house. And so we're like, oh, we've got to get these removed. Sunshine, I was in turmoil. I was beside myself to take these trees down. Because I'm like, I'm removing Gaia's children. Like, this isn't these aren't mine. And so what helped was like, I held a vigil for each individual tree and gave thanks for them being here and providing. I was so afraid Gaia was going to be upset. And what was beautiful is the next day, it had been like kind of weird weather. She shone so brightly and beautifully into these trees to validate for me she heard me. It's okay. And it's simply recognizing that these trees were amazing and served their purpose, and now they will return to her. So,
I love that. I love that. And can we bring that same idea to reunite the children that belong to their mothers and
yes,
and their grandmothers, and
yes.
you know what I mean? Like I feel like the world might show that gratitude when Canada stops doing what it's doing, and we can change how we keep children safe, because thing is I believe children need to be safe 100%. And can we reimagine how we do that? Can we reimagine services instead of institutions that remove and separate and perpetuate children being removed from their culture and origins? And can we flip that system on its head and put the children back where they belong and bring in the helpers and the healers of each community? Because there is always good in a place, and let's highlight that and let's lift that up
Mhm.
and see what a revolution and transformation that is what we need right now in children's services, and dare I say, any other system.
I mean, literally any other system. Let's absolutely intentionally call that into existence. May all Indigenous children be reunited with their mothers, grandmothers. May all the healers of the communities, the shamans, the medicines, may they all find each other and help unite the original peoples and ancestors and generations to one another.
Hi, hi.
Yeah.
Please let it be so.
And so it is.
And so it is.
We're
Yeah.
calling it. We're calling it. Oh,
That's the way. That's the way
that's
forward. It's the
literally the way.
only way forward.
Think about how First Nation, how powerful, because spirit, magic, healing, natural medicines.
Yep. Yep. There's
Why,
a power beyond the 3D.
exactly. And why the West is so threatened by it.
Yes. See, the thing that made everything less emotional for me and less like I don't get into like depression or any, I used to, but when I realized that it was the roots are all about land grabbing and creating suffering and cycles of keeping people down. And I was just like, oh, that's what it is. It's we actually are so worthy and so powerful and so incredible. And that's why you tried so hard. You tried everything you could do to try and ruin us. And we're going to alchemize that, by the way. So thank you for all of that, because now we're going to transmute that, alchemize that, and I'm going to be the first multimillionaire in my family because I'm alchemizing all of what was done to my family for the last 500 years. And I'm going to put that into what my family has rightfully deserved because we are the first people of this land. And how could we be living in poverty and suffering when we are the first peoples and stewards of this land, this abundant land? So thank you, colonizer, oppressor, all of those things that happened in the past, because I'm using that to have a launch pad to my greatest life.
Gone, girl. Okay.
And
Yeah.
I'm so for real.
Oh,
And like I
I
want to
know you
do
are. Yeah.
Yeah, like I want to do consultations. Like I want to share this wisdom forever, this knowledge forever, and collect the bag.
And you are. So what you said was really, really critical, which is so important. When we're in this space of being able to heal, alchemize, reach into the quantum, there's this ancient Hawaiian poem called Ho'oponopono, and
Mm,
I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And a lot of people aren't going to be able to receive that and be like, I can never say that about, I hear you, but that also shows you where an invitation to heal is within you so that you can truly alchemize all that has come from the dark to the light. That's the how you get to all the things or all the feelings, achievements, anything you want to experience in the world. That's how you call it in, is to alchemize all the dark to the light.
exactly. Like I really realized, and I'm really in that phase of my life right now of, you know, trying to be grateful for everything, all of the shame and the guilt and the harm in my past. I'm kind of going there now and letting the tears fall and letting those emotions come to the surface because they have to.
Yeah.
And moving forward, I really believe that that is how they kept people trapped. If you
Mhm.
keep people trapped in the grief and the this and the that, you're keeping people stuck. But now I'm unstucking myself, and what is what is, and what was is what was. And let me move forward into the now, and let me be the change in the world that I want to be and to see, because that's all I can do today. That's all I can do today. I want to live in the light and the love because that's where the expansion is. And so, as a society, as a country, as a continent, can we start living in the now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Please.
For anyone who's like, what are they talking about? Listen, feel your feels. It's going to hurt bad because as far as the depths of which you're able to feel all the bad, the pain, the turmoil, the abuse, the everything, as far in the depths of you allowing yourself to reach those depths is as far as you will come back into the light. It's like kind of a slingshot if you want to think about it that way. So let yourself feel. We're not talking about rainbows and butterflies. We're saying feel all your feels so that you can get to where you really want to be. Oh my gosh. So, Sunshine, as we start to wind down, I want to go to a post that you reposted a couple months ago on LinkedIn, and I just think it was a really beautiful saying that I'd love to hear more thoughts about it. And it's from Crystal Tababandung. I'm not self-made. I'm community made. I'm family made. I'm land made. I'm ancestor made. I'm made up of everything and everyone that made me exist outside just myself. So, in the spirit of us saying, turn inward, feel everything, this is kind of suggesting, but also there is external that make up. So, how do you reconcile those two?
That's a great question. Because so much of my healing, I really give thanks to my ancestors. I've been learning more about DNA and how we are so intrinsically connected to our ancestors and through our bloodlines and DNA. So they are always with us, is what I've learned. And so when I read that post that you're speaking of, I was just thinking for myself about the only way that I have gotten to where I am today is not through me. So my successes in my career are not just because of me. It's the people that took care of me in my lowest points of my life and my friends and my family and my school system that taught me like post-secondary that gave me my diploma in mental health. It's like we grow and evolve in community, but we also have to go within and we have to do our shadow work and we have to do our growth work.
Mhm.
And so it's always just an evolution of ourselves and in community. So there's just so much I want to say about like it goes so deep with that post. But essentially, it's my mentors that have made me successful. So I always talk about my late elder who gave me my cultural teachings in the first place. That doesn't like fall from the stars, although it possibly could. But I was taught from like mentors and indigenous leaders, and they lifted me up and were like, you can do this work for community. This is what I've done. This is what you can do. And so we're constantly creating paths forward for the next generation, which ties into my vision and mission. So I hope that answers it. I could go on and on and on about like my spirit guides, and there's just so many layers to that post. But together we are stronger. We need each other. And I mean, all of us need each other. Humanity relies on us coming together and uniting amongst the differences that have been created on purpose to divide and conquer. We have to come together as brothers and sisters in humanity and love each other, just like your beautiful love for Mother Gaia. And we can do incredible, expansive love and light things if we choose.
Yeah, we get to, right? I totally agree. Maybe we'll have a part two on spirit guides. What I think about it is like understanding, trusting, knowing, standing firm in your own value, worth, magic, brilliance inward first, so that you stand so tall in your light that suddenly you look around and nothing but lighthouses around you that have the ability to shine into you to remind you when you're at a different ebb and flow. You have it first. And oh, by the way, since we're human, we'll have some days where those community lighthouses shine into us and we're like, oh, that's right. I know who I am. That's right. Thanks. Got it. That's how I feel about that.
I love it. I love it. And look at us being community lighthouses right now for whoever found this.
Yes.
Like, I just hope that this is what I say often is, you know, when there's like only a few people that come to my smudges when I offer a smudge ceremony, I always say, whoever's meant for this medicine will receive it. And I believe whoever heard this conversation, I pray that this is good medicine for your soul.
I always say that too, and I smudge. And for those, I gotta say this, and please let me know if you agree. Please don't call it saging. It is an original smudge ceremony. like Sunshine shared, let's not whitewash this beautiful ceremony of cleansing energy.
I love that. I love that. And yes, like you're saying, this is a timeless message. So even if someone hears this like a year from now, you're still going to receive the magic of the 2-2 portal right now, just to let you know.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So as we start to wrap up, Sunshine, who do you want to leave a message for? You've talked to a lot about the kids that are feeling lost, the identity, they're not yet reunited, they're feeling the way that you did. Do you want to talk to them? What would you say to the folks who, to your point, received this message and are meant to?
Well, with that, I'm going to take a step back and channel from the higher realms. So I need a second to connect, and
Excellent.
I will let them close this out. Just a moment. Thank you for joining today and hearing the messages from the divine. Please know that you are loved and protected always, and that there is always hope. There is always hope and healing, and to reach out to the safe people that are around you. There is always going to be one person that you can talk to, that you can feel safe with. And so keep those connections and grow those connections. Find your tribe, your community, and be yourself, even if it's scary and it doesn't feel like everyone else. Everyone is born with their unique gifts and their unique talents. And it's up to you to grow those, to be those, embody those, and share them with the world. You are worthy always. I love you. Thank you. And that comes from the higher realms, not from me. I can't take credit for that.
Yes, you can as the channel. Thank you so much, Sunshine. Thank you for your medicine. Thank you for your word. Thank you for your story. And thank you for your magic. This episode, I honor this episode to Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity with my first podcast. And I'm opening myself up to the world. If anybody else feels called to talk to me, I am here to serve humanity. So please reach out to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunshine.